The Browns just got caught red-handed, and QB coach Bill Musgrave's slip about Shedeur Sanders has ownership absolutely furious behind closed doors.
You guys just heard there, man. He said all the quarterbacks get a quarterback rep, scout team reps. But at the end of the day, if that was the case, why is information coming out that Shedeur is not? I don't know, man. It's looking real spooky in Cleveland, but I'm going to stay on top of this. But I want to know y'all thoughts down in the comment section right now. Keep them bells on. I'm coming right back with another one. And until next time, dog, shake the haters off. I'm out of here.
You can't fire the owner because he can't fire himself. Yeah, someone's head's going to roll, unfortunately, in this situation. And it's probably Stefanski and Barry.
I saw on The Athletic.
I don't think that's fair, by the way. Stefanski, that part.
I agree. I was saying the other day on my podcast that Barry should be fired. And I said I wouldn't fire Stefanski, but a couple of people made the point of saying, well, if you fire the GM, you got to give him a chance to hire his own coach, which is fair.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. So I would fire Barry. I would hire a new GM. If that GM thinks Kevin Stefanski's a good coach,
Timestamp 9:53 to 10:16. The Browns organization just got caught in a massive lie. And when you hear what quarterback coach Bill Musgrave accidentally revealed about Shedeur Sanders, you'll understand why ownership is absolutely furious behind closed doors. We're talking about a franchise that's been feeding the media one story while the complete opposite is happening in practice. And now that the truth is leaking out, heads are about to roll in Cleveland. This isn't just about scout team reps anymore. This is about a systematic cover-up that could destroy Shedeur's development and expose how dysfunctional this organization really is. Look, I've been covering this league for years, and I've never seen anything like what just went down in Cleveland. Bill Musgrave, the Browns quarterback coach, just held a press conference that was supposed to be routine damage control. Instead, he dropped a nuclear bomb that's got the entire organization scrambling. When asked about the young quarterbacks Dylan Thompson and Shedeur Sanders, Musgrave said something that should have every Browns fan asking serious questions about what's really happening behind those closed doors.
I think it's unfair for me to comment in I guess maybe on behalf of the industry. All I can say is this, the time that we spent with Shedeur, and what he's done throughout his college career is impressive. He's an impressive young man. He's a really good quarterback. Sometimes fit comes into play, and I'd also say this. There are 4 more rounds of the draft, and then maybe lastly, it's less about where you get picked and what you do after you get picked. That's really the most important thing. Getting to know him over the course of the spring, he has a ton of resolve.
Was running the scout team, and he said all of them. And so my question about that is, how beneficial is it for those young guys to go up against the first team defense and all of them having a chance to run scout?
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. At times, the concepts resemble what we would run here with the Browns, and at times it's completely foreign. But the fact that they're out there and having to make decisions and process and then deliver throws accurately, all that is really good. And we try to engineer it or orchestrate it where the certain concepts almost meet our quarterbacks. So I'd say last week, Bailey did some really good things that tried to replicate Joe Burrow. We're doing some things, of course, to replicate Baltimore's quarterback Lamar this week with all 3 guys to really give the defense a good look. Because being a scout team quarterback, you're working on your own craft, but really it's an art form to replicate the opponent so the defense can be ready to do their thing on Sunday.
He admitted that these elite college quarterbacks, guys who've never not been the starter their entire lives, are suddenly relegated to scout team duties. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Musgrave tried to spin it like it's normal, like it's part of some grand development plan. Really? You're telling me that Shedeur Sanders, the most NFL-ready quarterback prospect we've seen in years, needs to be running scout team plays to develop? The way Musgrave described it was almost insulting to our intelligence. He's talking about these quarterbacks like they're charity cases who should be grateful for scraps. Neither of these guys have ever not been the guy, he said, like that's somehow a weakness. Are you kidding me? That's exactly why they're special. That's exactly why teams draft these players, because they've been elite their entire careers.
Now being the 3rd string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, was that so much was made out of unbelievable. He actually made the team as the third string quarterback. Like that was a big deal. Like that was somewhat of a surprise to a lot of people. He should have been the first pick in the draft.
But wait, it gets worse. Much worse. The Browns have been telling everyone that all quarterbacks are getting equal opportunities, that everyone's getting their scout team reps. But if you listen closely to what's actually being said versus what's actually happening, there's a massive disconnect. Sources close to the organization are whispering that Shedeur specifically is getting the short end of the stick, and now we're starting to understand why. This is where things get really spicy, guys. When pressed about who's running the scout team, Musgrave gave this politician-style non-answer that told us everything we needed to know. He said all of them are getting scout team reps. But then he spent the next few minutes explaining how they're basically using these elite quarterbacks as human practice dummies for the first-team defense. Think about this for a second. You've got Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who threw for over 35 touchdowns in his final college season. A guy who's got arm talent that most NFL veterans would kill for. And you're asking him to pretend to be Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson so your defense can practice. That's not development. That's humiliation. But here's what's really got ownership seeing red. Multiple sources are telling me that this wasn't the plan. When the Browns drafted these quarterbacks, the understanding was that they'd be getting legitimate development opportunities, not cosplaying as opposing quarterbacks. The fact that Musgrave is now publicly defending this strategy means someone higher up is forcing his hand. And that someone? Well, let's just say there are rumors floating around that certain people in the organization never wanted Shedeur in the first place. There's been whispers about cultural fit and system compatibility, code words we've heard before when organizations want to sabotage players they don't believe in. The most damning part of Musgrave's comments was when he talked about how they're trying to engineer and orchestrate these scout team reps to meet the quarterbacks where they are. Translation? They're making it up as they go along because they never had a real plan for developing these guys in the first place. Now, let me tell you something about Shedeur Sanders that these Cleveland executives clearly don't understand. This isn't just any quarterback we're talking about. This is a player who's been groomed for success his entire life, who's had elite coaching, who understands the game at a level that most rookies never reach. The idea that he needs to run around pretending to be other quarterbacks to develop is absolutely ridiculous. You want to know what real development looks like? It looks like getting meaningful reps with the second team. It looks like working with the actual offensive playbook, not whatever foreign concepts they're having him run on scout team. It looks like building chemistry with receivers who might actually catch passes from him in a real game someday. Instead, what we're seeing is a systematic attempt to keep Shedeur buried on the depth chart while they figure out their actual quarterback situation. Joe Flacco isn't the long-term answer. Everyone knows that. But rather than preparing their future, they're wasting precious development time playing games. The chemistry comment Musgrave made about Flacco and Jerry Jeudy was particularly telling. He basically admitted that they didn't give Flacco enough reps in the spring and summer because they were repping a bunch of various quarterbacks. So they shortchanged their veteran starter to give looks to quarterbacks they're now relegating to scout team duty. Make it make sense. Here's what I think is really happening, and this is where ownership is reportedly losing their minds. The coaching staff and front office aren't on the same page about the quarterback situation. Someone wanted to draft Shedeur. Someone else didn't, and now we're seeing that internal conflict play out through these ridiculous development decisions. The fact that Musgrave felt compelled to defend this strategy publicly tells us that there's been significant criticism behind the scenes. You don't hold press conferences to explain why your development plan is working unless people are questioning whether it's working at all. But here's the twist that nobody's talking about. And this is why I still believe Shedeur is going to come out on top of this situation. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to an elite talent is adversity. Sometimes being underestimated, being doubted, being given less than you deserve. That's exactly the fuel that separates the good players from the great ones. Shedeur Sanders has been dealing with skeptics his entire career. People questioned whether he could succeed at Colorado, whether he could handle the pressure, whether he was just riding his father's coattails. What happened? He shut them all up with his play on the field. This Cleveland situation? It's just the next chapter in that story. The Browns organization might think they're managing him by keeping him on scout team, But what they're actually doing is giving him extra motivation. Every rep he takes pretending to be another quarterback is a rep where he's studying different offensive concepts, learning different throwing angles, understanding different defensive reactions, while other rookie quarterbacks are getting comfortable with limited playbooks. Shedeur is being exposed to multiple offensive systems every single week, while other guys are building chemistry with one set of receivers. He's learning to read defenses that are specifically trying to challenge him with their best looks. Don't get me wrong. This isn't the ideal development situation, and the Browns deserve criticism for how they're handling it. But if there's any quarterback who can turn this disadvantage into an advantage, it's Shedeur Sanders. The most ironic part of this whole situation is that Musgrave accidentally revealed just how talented these quarterbacks are. When he talked about how they're trying to replicate Lamar Jackson's mobility and different quarterback styles, he essentially admitted that these rookies have the physical tools to mimic some of the best players in the league. That's not something you can teach. That's elite natural ability. Here's what ownership is really worried about, and why they're reportedly furious with how this is being handled. They know that Shedeur has the talent to make them look foolish. They know that if he gets an opportunity and succeeds, it's going to raise serious questions about why he wasn't getting that opportunity sooner. The Browns have been mediocre for so long that they've forgotten what elite quarterback play looks like. They're so used to settling for average that when they have a potential superstar on their roster, they don't know how to handle it. So instead of maximizing his development, they're treating him like every other late-round project quarterback who needs years to figure out the basics. But Shedeur isn't every other quarterback. He's not a project. He's not a guy who needs to learn how to read defenses or understand offensive concepts. He's a guy who needs game experience, who needs to build relationships with his offensive line and receivers, who needs to start preparing to be a starter in this league. Every day they waste having him run scout team plays is a day they're not preparing him for what everyone knows is inevitable. He's going to be their starting quarterback sooner rather than later. The question is whether they'll have him ready when that time comes, or whether they'll have wasted months of crucial development time playing these political games. The bottom line is this: talent rises to the top, and Shedeur Sanders has more talent in his pinky finger than most quarterbacks have in their entire body. This scout team situation might be frustrating now, but it's going to make his eventual success story even sweeter. When he finally gets his shot, and he will get his shot, he's going to be ready. He's going to have seen more defensive looks, more offensive concepts, more game situations than any other rookie quarterback in the league. And when he starts lighting up scoreboards and making the Browns' offense must-watch television, everyone's going to forget about these early development controversies. The Browns' ownership can be mad all they want about how this situation is being handled. But at the end of the day, they've got a future superstar on their roster, and no amount of organizational dysfunction is going to change that. What do you think is really going on in Cleveland? Is this just typical Browns incompetence, or is there something more sinister happening with how they're handling Shedeur's development? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to hear your thoughts on this developing story. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest NFL drama and behind-the-scenes stories that the mainstream media won't tell you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, this Shedeur Sanders story is just getting started, and you don't want to miss what happens next.